Hey guys, welcome to Quill. This is just a quick onboarding tutorial explaining how to go through these screens and start using Quill. The first thing you'll see after you do the microphone and system on Mac, and on Windows you don't need to do those things, is the About You. Just to explain this, it's pretty simple. You put your name in. You don't have to put your second name in. You can if you want. And then put a little bit of information about you. It is important to tell Quill what your role is and the name of your company, and ideally what the company does or organization or school or whatever. And the reason is it will use this to make your notes better. And that's why when you start putting things in here, it will count down, and then you see the countdown's finished now to encourage you to put more in. So I'm CEO of Quill, an incredible next gen meeting tool. Okay, great. So that's great. And then click some of your roles. You can click multiple ones if you want. It's really up to you. You need to select at least one. And the reason is we use this to figure out what kind of meetings you're in and then what kind of templates you might want. Okay, so the next page, I don't want to bore you with this, but basically this is our promise. It is important because one of the cool things about Quill is your data is actually not stored anywhere in the cloud if you don't want it to be. And if it is stored in the cloud, it's fully end-to-end encrypted, which means that even Quill employees can't access it ever, even if we wanted to. End-to-end encryption works by you having the keys and us never having the keys. And so it's very clever. And if you don't want that on, it's all stored locally. So even your AI generations and inputs and outputs, there's no legal right to them we have. We don't store them, we don't log them, neither do our partners. So you completely own, your data is completely safe, and there's no record of it anywhere except on your machine unless you choose to share it or sync it, in which case only you have access to it. So that's completely unique about Quill, and we're really proud of that. We make a lot of effort to make this work for you. We believe meetings are an incredible rich source of very personal and very proprietary data, and we don't think those things should belong in the cloud if you don't want them to, certainly not with third-party providers who will do whatever with them, right? That's us. And then go ahead and log in. Okay, so I'm just going to click login and come back. Okay, great. Now this is the first view you'll get of Quill. And the first thing you're going to see, it's actually added a meeting because my login actually had a shared meeting with it. But the first thing you're going to see is to just click start. And start basically is going to start Quill after a confirmation. So let's go ahead and do that. And what you'll see is something that looks a little bit like this. And so go ahead and click OK. If you don't click OK, in about 3 minutes, it's going to time out because we want to make sure you're really sure you want to record this. Make sure that if you're in geographies that require it, that you're letting people know. And then go ahead and click OK. And that is the overlay. This is the main notes window. And typically this will close when you click OK. So when I click OK, it's going to close. But you can bring it back up by going to your Apple menu, or in Windows, you can click on the dock area and bring notes back up. So I'm going to go to notes and it's going to come back. But for now, let's just talk a little bit about this. So this is your overlay, okay? And during the meeting, the overlay is basically your like command and control center for Quill. You can turn it off if you want, and you can turn off the sort of expansion, and you can even close it. And if you close it, it still keeps recording, and you can see that by the little waving feather icon in the top right on Mac, and in Windows it's in your dock. But it's always recording, but you have access to it. So let's bring it back up here. Here's the overlay, okay? Now, there's some cool things on the overlay to draw your attention to. Maybe you never do anything, you just want to have it go on the background, and that's totally cool. But Quill has some super cool things I just want to let you know about, just in case you want to use them. One thing I'd highly recommend you do is turn on auto screenshot. What screenshot is going to do is during a meeting, if someone's sharing something with you, it's going to automatically capture the screen whenever it changes to a presentation slide. So whenever a new slide is shown, it's going to change, and it's going to store that slide, and it's actually going to add it to your meeting notes. So I'll show more about that later, but it's a really cool feature of Quill. So that's automatic screenshotting. Minutes will show up after about 2 or 3 minutes of speech, and you'll see probably soon as we start talking, it's going to just show up. And then you can decide whether you want to keep the audio or not. If you don't keep the audio, is never stored, so it's just the transcript, so it's even more secure. Or if you just don't like keeping audio, that's fine. Otherwise, you can use the audio to go back and play through, and I'll show you that later. You can manually screenshot, and that just, if I click on this, it'll take a screenshot, and you'll see it appears there. And it will also analyze it and determine what's in it. And then finally, this is a really cool part of Quill, and you can do this using a keyboard command, but you can go ahead and click, and when you click highlight, it's going to highlight that part of speech. And it's going to say, oh, that was important. Why do you think that was important to you? and it's going to later use those in the notes. So that's a really cool way to draw the attention of the AI to the notes. Really, really awesome feature. And you can also just do Command Option 1 for Mac, and you can do Control Option 1 for Windows, and this will do it. So I just did that right now. I did the keyboard command, and I'll just do it again. You can see I'm clicking on it, and it shows tick, and then it just says this is worth highlighting. You can also type in here, by the way. Let's just hide minutes for the moment and use this. You can go ahead and just type in here. So you can be like, I think we should do the budget before next week, something like that. And it will obviously like record that as a potential to do afterwards. It will add it to the notes. It will find context in the meeting relevant to what you typed there. Super cool. So this is a very powerful feature of Quill. You can totally ignore it and you don't have to use it at all. That's totally cool. But if you do use it, it will make your notes better, especially just highlighting things or typing things. And so we do encourage you to use that. We call them kind of personal notes. And again, as you're talking, the minutes will appear here and you can see they're appearing here. Okay, so that's the overlay. That's a little bit about Quill. I'm gonna just finish the meeting now and bring back the notes window. And you'll see when you're done, it's gonna process really quite quickly. So you can see on Mac, it takes 5 to 10 seconds after the meeting to fully transcribe it all on your own machine. Audio never leaves your machine. And then it's going to predict the kind of meeting it was, or conversation, or recording, right? You could use Quill for all kinds of things. It doesn't just need to be for meetings. And it's going to predict it, and it correctly predicted here that we were doing a presentation. It's going to give you a little snapshot of what the meeting was about. And then it's going to give you some to-dos if there are anything for you to do. Here, you can go ahead and say who was in the meeting. It was actually just me. And that actually will make the notes better from then on. So anything you type here is good. But that brings me on to another point that I highly recommend you do. If you connect your calendar, what this will do, and you can click on one of these and it will connect your calendar, either Google or Microsoft. It will actually pull the participant names out from the calendar, as well as help auto start. When I go ahead and click OK and go back to Quill, you'll see that it shows it's going to auto start and pull in participants. In the future, if I'm using Quill during a calendar invite, it should pull in those names. But for now, I'll just put just myself. Okay, great. And that's basically the basics of Quill.